the gallery slider, which comes included in the OctoMono app. So after dropping your element on the page, you need to access the dashboard, just like that. And then within the dashboard, you will have to either search and scroll down, or you can also filter on name and then just open the dashboard. On the left, we got our settings as usual. Then we got our options and our preview here. The slider itself will not have a preview, a sliding preview. They will all look more or less the same, but you get your arrows which you can preview, the amount of images to manipulate, and then the dots if you would like to use them, which will go underneath the slider. So first of all, you can see that those images, by default there are 3, but you can add as many as you like. I'm going to add 8 in this case. And you can also see that at the left top there is like a unique name which says image and then some code and then some characters, I mean. And then you can add the name if you want. It doesn't matter, so I'm going to call it gallery image 1. The reason for this is to give you a better overview, because images do need to be uploaded inside of your Weebly editor. So later on, if you maybe want to manipulate, remove, or insert, or do whatever with the image, then it's easier to find back which image you're working with. So those names will just appear here in the dashboard and within the Weebly dashboard. They won't be visible on your live site. So now let's say, for example, that you come back into the editor and you would add a new element. You can see that it was added at the bottom. But maybe this element you want to use it as the first image. Okay, then you can simply remove this around, and then you know that you added it before the first image, and then you can rename it whatever you want, if necessary, obviously. I'm going to remove this because for this purpose I'm only going to be uploading 8 images. So now let's have a look at the image settings rather on the left here. You can see that there is an image height for desktop, tablet and phone. By default it's set to 400. You can set it to the height you like. The width will be it will vary obviously depending on the ratio of the image you're uploading. So you do not have to worry, all your images will never exceed this height. Also, if your screen gets smaller than 400 pixels, or let's say 4000 pixels, it will never exceed the height of the actual window it is being viewed on, so you don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to leave this by these default settings. You can play around with that. You can also see that there is a margin settings, and also where you can give some border radius to the images, which will round the images. I'm going to give this a border radius just like that. I'm going to set it to 15 so you can view what it is. This is a image active position. We'll look at that a bit later. You get some arrow options. So here in the preview you can see the arrows changing, for which again then also you can modify the position where it says above the slider on the left. You can put it in the center, above, or on the right, and you can also put it just on top of the slides, under the slider, left, center, or right. I'm going to put it on top of the slide just for demo purpose like that. You can obviously change a lot of those settings as well, where you can change the looks of those arrows and those boxes. You can add some border radius, remove it, make it completely square, some colors. You can change the height and the size of that, the border width even if you like, and so on. So I'm going to leave this all to the default settings just like this, and then scroll down where you use the dots. In the dots you can just use a color, which would be the color that becomes visible. For active color, I'm just going to leave it like that. And then in functionality we have autoplay loop slider and full width slider. I think full width slider is pretty clear what it is. It's just making the slider take up all the width of the window it is being viewed on. Loop slider will just make the slider go round in a carousel around, whereas this being turned off, it will just go from the first slide to the last slide and then just go back. So autoplay is also to have the slides transition automatically, where you can set obviously the interval of how many seconds should pass between each slide. So I'm just going to leave it like that because I think it's a good starting point to work with. I'm going to save this. I'm going to wait till all the settings are saved, and we'll be taking back to our Weebly editor. So now you can see that we have a preview here that says scroll to upload your images, and those names that we just only had one name, but you can upload any names you'd like. You can also see that there are some that the arrows are here. Do note that it is not, they won't be working here actually. This is only going to be working on the live side. To upload the images, you can either scroll with your trackpad or whatever you're using, or just with the mouse, you just scroll just like that to upload all the images you need. So let's start by uploading those images. Image 1, image 2, 3, and let's move this. Image 4, 5, 6, 7, and our last image, image 8. So now that we have all of our images, let's publish the site and have a look at what it looks like on the live page. I'll refresh here to view our results. So you can see that now we have our images, and let's go back to our settings at the same moment so we can have a look at some settings in the meantime. So here the images, the arrows rather, are going to be working. You can see that the slider has not been set to loop, so we are not able to go from the first slide to the last one. If it was set to loop, our last image would be appearing right here in the empty space, and our arrow would be working, obviously, so you can see here that now it's working. Once you transition to another slide, it's not the first one, or the same will happen when you transition to the last one, which will disable that last arrow. So when we started with the page, it started just like that. This is because we have set our image active position to center. So you can see that now it starts at the center. If we were to set it to the left, our image would be starting here at the left. To the right, it would be the first image here on the right. Now let's set it to loop, and let's make the slider full width. You can also see that we set some separation. We left it actually by default the 10 pixels margin, and that we also have a border radius set of 15 pixels, which makes it a little bit rounder. So now that we set it to full width and loop, let's go and have a look. It looks like that. So now you can see that our first image is still at the center, and now our last image appears here, and so on. And we can also scroll from left to right immediately, or from right to left, obviously, and it would just go like that. You can also use your dots, obviously, to slide through this, and so on. Now let's make a small change as well, maybe in the arrows, just like that, and let's make them above the slider at the right, maybe. I want to remove that border radius. We're going to leave those colors for now, actually. I'm going to hide the dots. We're not going to be using those dots. And next thing I wanted to point out rather. So when we save, since you have the possibility, since there's the only possibility for this slider to upload images with the Weebly element, you also will have your Weebly default settings where you can obviously replace the image, but you can also use it as a lightbox, or maybe use it as a link, since you can link those images. So now that when we publish this, our arrows should appear right here above the slider, and our slide should be this. But now remember that when we link to that lightbox, you can see that once a user hovers over the image, a little icon will appear here showing that there's another action to make, and that they can open this here. And the same would go obviously for the link. You can see this is an external link, and now when opening this, you can just open this. So I think it's a nice feature where you can play around with a lot. Actually, you can create some really nice sliders here. So this element was actually requested, this slider, by a user that is using our OctoMono app and that owns a photography site. So what I meant to say with this is that in case you would ever have a suggestion or maybe something that you think that we could include in our OctoMono bundle, do please reach out, and we'll definitely keep all those suggestions in mind and see whatever is possible, and we'll include that. Thank you.